Hey traders, it's Ryan from privatebanker.com. I was going to quickly do an update for the macros on crude oil and the SP500. So starting with, as usual, some of the higher time frames, just touch base on the monthly. I mean, come back to that sort of key level that we were talking about when we saw the upside break in 2008, 2009. We saw that sort of pullback that where we found innovative buyers active, and then we could sort of see that buy side uptrend on the macro time frame. So we come back this month. We've seen sort of a breakout of this consolidation two-way trade bracket rebalance that we've seen, and we just pulled back to this area now, and we've seen those sort of offers through it yet, but we're starting to see some possible sellers. We saw a two-way trade last week, and we broke up. We found a sort of new place to find to do fair business here, and you can see that we've seen quite a substantial amount of volume sort of accumulating up here now. So I mean, that does show us that even though there are buyers in this market at the moment, I mean they are being met by sellers at the moment. So you got to think we had that sort of first flush higher, so we would have seen a lot of people starting to cover any weak shorts they had. So in a sense that would have created a old business buy-in sort of panic, and then obviously now we're starting to see some sort of fresh buyers potentially coming in here, but they are being, like I said, met by sellers. So it's just obviously something to be mindful of. And obviously we see last week, we see wrong chart, millions of charts everywhere. So last week we saw last week we saw that breakout 2 weeks ago of the current consolidation, and we're back up to sort of the front continuous contract high. I mean, on the back adjusted data, we're actually not pushing highs in the current inventory sitting in the market, but I'm not going to go into detail on that. But anyway, so we see that breakout with the big engulfing bar, and then last week we just see this consolidation, and we see a compression bar put in. So we saw that one time frame in now compressions. I mean, whatever way we try to break from this compression is most likely going to give us a good sense of the next sort of directional move in this market. And even though I am quite was looking bullish potentially on this, I mean I'm not trying to predict. I don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what is going to happen. But like I said, we're just trying to lean off the market generated information, and we've got 4 trading days left of this month, I believe. Let me just check. Yes, we've got 4 trading days. On Friday we see May come in May 2015. So obviously what happens into the end of the month is very important, and how we close this month. I mean, at the moment we are still quite near the high of the month, but I mean, are we gonna see a very strong engulfing bar close, or are we going to see sort of excess created at the high, and we're going to come back into balance on the month? We're just sort of testing the top of the developing value on the month at the moment. So I mean, are we going to see responsive buyers? Are we going to hold higher, or are we going to come back in and close neutrally and potentially see another balanced month rather than sort of value migration higher, which would be confirming the breakout? So what's interesting to see is obviously since we have been climbing higher, I mean, like I said, we have been meeting sellers here. I mean, it's point of control. Fair prices we're doing at $57.80, $57.80. So there are clearly sellers in the market at the moment. So that's just something to be aware of. I mean, again, if we do start to break higher, then these guys are going to get liquidated again. And just like I said, we're just taking the information as it comes. I mean, I don't want to predict. We're just taking the market generated information as it comes. So, in fact, at the moment, I mean, we couldn't really make a higher high on that last run up to the highs. I mean, we see sellers start to come in here, we see accumulation, and we see that sort of nice rundown. Sellers again hitting buyers, and then all of a sudden we just see that huge liquidation. So I mean, whoever was trying to sell in here, accumulating inventory, they got liquidated in this big spike higher. And again, we've seen sellers accumulating, pushing prices down. So we do start to come back into value, and then we're kind of looking for a mean reversion potentially on the month. But I mean, this is a very, very important area here. I mean, this $55 a barrel is a very, very important area to watch for sort of the next sort of piece of the puzzle of what's going to be potentially happening here on crude. So just said, very interesting to see that. But if we do put a lower low in here, then obviously we're possibly seeing a short-term trend reversal here. I mean, seeing higher highs, low highs, and all of a sudden, just bear me 2 seconds. All of a sudden, we couldn't see that new higher put in. So I mean, and we start to see this two-way trade balance come back into the market. So this is obviously something else to be aware of here. So I mean, if we look at the daily, I mean, you can see that we see this is the continuous contract. We see that breakout. This is the yearly bell curve, and you can see we start to see that volume start accumulating this real low LVN here. So I mean, if we are going to see a buy side break, then we are starting to see the first pieces of information come in, but we need to hold this excess, and we need to reject this $55 a barrel and continue to hold higher, and obviously then see the next directional breakout higher. And if not, what we're most likely going to do is we're going to see a directional break away from this upper balance, and then we're going to possibly pull back into the lower range, and then we can see that the market fall back in and potentially clean up this poor low that's on the year down this sort of $52 a barrel area. I mean, again, I'm just sort of, we have to keep a few hypothesis scenarios in play, because we have to be ready for any information the market presents us. And like I said, at the moment we've seen that auction higher, and we're holding the higher prices, but if we can't continue to find new flow into the market and we can't break higher, then like I said, we're most likely going to break lower, and then we can kind of see where we're going to go from here, if we're going to sort of hold this area of support and find new buy side inventory into the market, or whether just buyers dry up here and sellers take back over and we come back into this very fresh range that we put in. I mean, this is the most recent information here, so as soon as we come back into this range, then we're most likely going to pull back to the high of the curve, and then again come back to the fair prices on the year, and then potentially test the other side of the curve. So just have to be very open-minded here, and obviously there's all these analysts and fancy people making all these predictions, but I mean, well, the reality is price, and market generated information is the key here. So anyway, moving forward, we'll just quickly touch base on the SP 500 here. So this is the SP 500. Very nice. Some very nice trades last week. I mean, we said last week, if you look on Twitter and our other media pages, we said we were gonna be buying the low of the previous week's balance. Just bear with me. Yes, we said we were going to be buying the low of the previous week's balance. So I mean, this was the previous week. This was the low of the previous week's balance here. You can see the curve from this LVN to this LVN. So this is the curve, and this is the developing value. So we said we're going to come in, we're going to start buying. So off the start of the week, I mean, we sort of saw that lift higher, and we off the Sunday night there was nothing really for us to do, and finally we find that very nice pullback to the other side of the distribution bell curve, right into this to the low volume area, and right into the lower balancer like we were talking about. So we just start to buy all these pullbacks here, and finally the market's starting to make new highs. So what we want to see here now is obviously value migration and buy side break to the upside. I mean, if we do look at the weekly and the monthly bars, and you can see this is the high of the current market on this is the cash SPX. I mean, that's what we look at for the macro time frames, and you can see we've got very poor highs. So this week we just want to see a clean dislocation away. I mean, I'll show you the volume in a minute, but we just want to see a clean dislocation, and we want to see new flow come into the market, and then potentially see a new either just a nice break higher with a nice move up into this sort of above this 2100 level, or we can see again just part of this balance potential. I mean, the S&P can't keep rallying forever. A bull market doesn't last forever. At the minute, we are in a bull market on the S&P 500. So I mean, we're starting to see this topping process come in. I mean, we're starting to see these balance areas starting to overlap. So signs that the trend's starting to get weak. I mean, it doesn't mean that it can't go another 300 points or 1,000 points, but I mean, it's just the signs that the trends and the buyers are starting to sort of wear out here. So I mean, this is on a very longer term time frame. So just have to keep an eye on this, and obviously markets like this and trends like this don't turn on a dime. It takes a long time, and obviously there's a lot of fundamental things that are happening in America at the minute. I mean, they stopped the quantitative easing. They're looking to raise interest rates this year. So I mean, that's what everyone's got their eye on at the minute, and how the market's going to react to when the Fed come in and raise interest rates in America. So that would be the key play for this year. I mean, when are they going to raise rates, and the reaction to when they raise rates? So that's going to be the big major factor here to keep an eye on. But like I said, at the minute, I mean, we're looking for new highs on the S&P. We're looking for what we're going to do here, whether we're going to see a nice upside break or Let's quickly show. This is the current year, and this is the yearly bars. We've seen one time frame for a long time. We're in a bull market, and we've just seen compression this year. The first quarter was just balanced. We balanced at last year's highs. We're showing that there's still value in this market, and we're just not broken out yet. So hopefully we're going to see a nice breakout of last year's range, and then we're going to see that last sort of just that next run higher here. And you can see the yearly development value. We've just seen a clear disconnect. So the volume's been building higher. Just very, very poor height. So we're going to see this big blow off top, and we're going to come back in and see further balance, or we're going to again continue to just see grinding up and into this new sort of range that we're going to potentially see here. So again, what would be nice to see is a nice dislocation here and leave an LV end and start to build a new upper curve up here and above the 2100s. I mean, just like here, I mean, we broke and then we see that disconnect and then we see that new distribution come in. I mean, that's what we're looking basically to see here, or whether we're going to see a spike excess and then we're going to fall back in and see continued two-way trade balance on the year. So obviously that's what we're looking at on the SP 500 regards the market generated information and any sort of clues for targets on our trades or to liquidate our positions, and then obviously again wait for the market to show us the next piece of information of what it wants to do here. But just a quick look at the daily. I mean, obviously with there's no like clear levels to work off for targets. So I mean, if we do break out above this current balance and then we do see this new balance come in, then we have some very nice upside targets into the sort of 2192. I mean, these are just calculated level. There's nothing to really work off. So there's only thing to look at is fibs. I mean, so this year we got that low, we got the high, we pull back to the 50% area. So then to complete the sort of the move, if we do break above this and then start to find buyers, then obviously this is the targeted calculated area for targets on the S&P. I mean, there are a couple other little fibs, but I mean, these are the major ones that we're looking at. So these are the targets that we will be looking for if we do see a nice upside break here, and the information that we want to see for the S&P. So I mean, I don't really like to use fibs. I mean, fibs I suppose are good for calculations. I mean, from a macro perspective, intraday I don't believe in fibs or weeks. They do work, but it's not what we look at here. But in certain scenarios like this where we have nothing to work with and we've got such a high time frame pitch, I mean, these calculations do work. I mean, these expansion levels do work. So that is how we can find some good target areas for calculated moves on the S&P 500 here into new highs where we don't have any information to work with. So anyway, I'll leave it at that for the moment. I mean, if we do see any major changes on both these markets, then I'll do another update this week. But in a minute, like I said, crude, I mean, we're pretty neutral on the higher time frame macros. I mean, the path of least resistance, it's just still balanced. I mean, we're still looking for that next piece of information where we're going to see the buy side break cold, or we're going to come back in for two-way trade on the year. So that's the major scenario hypothesis on crude oil at the moment. And obviously on the S&P, we're looking macro path of least resistance is still to the buy side. Obviously we're seeing balance on the year so far, but we are holding higher value, and we're waiting to see whether we're going to break out here and see a buy side imbalance form, or whether we're going to see excess at the higher formed, and then we're going to see two-way trade come back in again. So anyway, I'll leave it at that, and good luck for this week, and I'll catch you all soon. Take care and goodbye.